I have never been on a stage without a loudspeaker. This is completely unique. It feels like a silent film. So I want you guys to do something with me to let me know, A, you're still awake because it's the end of the day, and B, I'm not talking into thin air. On the count of three, I want everyone to say email, okay? And I want the other rooms to hear it. So bear with me. We're going to try this. It's going to be an interactive session. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Email! Yes! Let's talk about email. All right. Before we get into it, I want to tell you a little bit about SendGrid. SendGrid was started 9 years ago by 3 developers that want to find a better way of sending email. They essentially defined the use case for what was transactional mail at that time. Today, we've scaled that platform to service 69,000 paying customers, and we send over 1.5 billion emails a day. A lot of the emails in your inbox come through SendGrid. As you can see, Flipkart, huge here. Now perhaps we call it Walmart, but it's still Flipkart. Ola, Paytm, all of these great Indian companies are using SendGrid to send email. But the story of email is really interesting because it goes back a lot further than you think. My role at SendGrid is to be a brand ambassador and also an expert. I work with a lot of different companies and also communities ranging from the anti-spam world to best practices to policy and legal. So I have to know email. I have to know where it started. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story of how email got started and where it got started. Email started in 1971. Believe it or not, the first email was sent in 1971 by Ray Tomlinson. That's not Ray Tomlinson. This handsome devil over here is Ray Thurk. In 1978, he sent the first piece of spam, and you can find that email and read it. He did something no one had done at that point. He took a single email and said, well, I don't want to send 450 emails to a bunch of people. That was the entire internet in 1978. I'm going to put them all into one email and tell them about a new mainframe. It was a DEC Alpha system at the time. So he created the one-to-many use case. Today we call it spam. He's a funny guy. He didn't even know what spam was back then. But there was another date that actually fundamentally changed how you and I interact with email. For those of you of a certain age and a certain vintage going back to the early days of the internet, the only way to read email was literally to read it, and it was all text-based. We used clients like Pine and Mud to read email, and they weren't very pretty. In 1993, the first webmail client came out, and all of a sudden we could have HTML email, and things got a lot more beautiful and a lot more engaging for all of our customers and you and I. I mean, let's face it, we live and die by HTML email. We expect pictures. We are a visual society. So today, email is huge. There's almost 300 billion emails a day sent. That's just the legitimate side of the business. The illegitimate side's a lot bigger, and the spammers have a lot of firepower. So we're looking at a platform that has grown organically since the very first email in 1971. On average, people have 1.75 email accounts. Who here has more than one email account? More than 2? More than 3? 5? All right, pretty good. I don't remember how many email accounts I have. Probably about 30. But it goes to show you how useful it is. We actually segment our lives, the documentation of our lives, based on our email addresses. I have a personal account. I have one that catches all of my receipts and the crap that I really don't want to read on a daily basis, right? Email has great utility. But again, it was a platform that was never designed to be what it is today, which is really amazing considering its reach. Let's think about it. Is there another communication channel that can reach so many people and be as open as email is? Push is a closed box. SMS has a lot of requirements, but email's open. So let's talk about some of the things around why it's open, and we'll get to where it's going. Because believe it or not, the underlying technology of email, SMTP, that protocol, hasn't changed fundamentally since the 80s. We're using ancient technology and building and bolting a lot of things on top of it to make it do what it's supposed to do today. The reason, though, email is as big as it is because for every dollar of investment into email, there's a $38 return. That's a massive ROI. I don't know about you, but I can reach a lot of people with email. Who here uses email to talk to their customers? That's a pretty good show of hands. it goes to show that it actually is important to our businesses. And doing email right and understanding what the future looks like for email is critical to actually growing your business, because you can communicate, you can transact, and you can make sure your brand is in front of your customers on a regular basis. So the question is, after 50 years of development, where is email going? And I'm going to cover just a few trends that I think are going to be important to all of us down the road. First of all, hyper-personalization. We live in a personalized world. Alexa tells us the weather, she gives us reminders. It is the way we think about the world. The internet is not a cold place. It actually is a very personal place, and we have the job as marketers to further personalize it. Personalizing a subject line is like a welcome message. Someone opens that email, they look at it, and they know right away that you know something about them. Think about the digital trail you leave behind. Every time you visit a website, make a purchase, that is all great information to further personalize the email experience. Now, I want to give you a little story about when I bought an Echo Dot. First of all, they're awesome. I'm a little afraid they're like Skynet from the Terminator. I'm not sure. She's always listening. It's cool and scary simultaneously. The postman arrived to my house. I went downstairs, got the box, began to open it, and then my phone vibrated. And because I live and breathe email, I flipped out. I got to check it, looked at the email, and all of a sudden I had an email about how to set up my Echo Dot. That is a personalization of epic proportions, because it bridged the gap between the offline world and the online world. That's a really powerful form of communication. You're no longer talking about digital experiences. You're talking about physical experiences and substantiating them with a digital communication method. I think that's pretty cool. Another form of personalization. eBay has a really interesting use case. They send their email through us. Guess what? If I don't open that email, the content of that email becomes very stale very fast. That pair of shoes I wanted, gone in an hour. So what happens when I open the email, click on it, and I miss that auction? I'm going to be like, boo, I'm not going to open any more emails. They've created a proprietary technology that refreshes the content within the email when I open it. It's a form of hyper-personalization on an individual level. All of my eBay emails are going to be very different from your eBay emails, because they're looking at what I do on their website and translating that into a more personalized experience directly on my phone, on my laptop, on my tablet. Personalization is where it's at. We expect personal experiences. We expect bespoke experiences. So when you think about how you're going to communicate with your customers, think about the way that you would want to be communicated with. And also think about the way you would not want to be communicated with. One of the cool features of this email is that they can send one email that will have multiple uses depending on when I open it, instead of hitting me with an email every day. Who likes to get 3 emails a day from the same company? No? I don't see any hands. That's good. Who would rather get less email from certain companies? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So when I talk to clients about marketing, I basically say, put yourself in the shoes of your recipient. How do you want to be communicated with? All right, another trend that I think is going to be really key is mobile. There's been almost 50 million devices sold of the smartwatch, smart clothing variety. Let's think about this. All of those devices need to communicate with us somehow. Email is a great channel for that. My fridge today can send me an email and say, go buy more eggs, okay? Running out of milk. This is the world we're living in. Email is going to be driven in a very significant way by essentially smart object world, IoT. It is a major driver of the volume that we see increasing. Furthermore, our screens are getting smaller. You not only have to design for a mobile client and a desktop client and a laptop client, you're also designing for a watch, this tiny thing. And that's painful. You have to get your message right. And that's one of the things we are learning from IoT, is that message matters, format matters, and that really defines the experience that people have. So look across who you're sending email to, what is the use case, and where is that content being consumed. It's really key in order to hone your message to the right audience at the right time and for the right type of engagement. All right. Back in the day, many years ago, email used to be very dynamic. We used to do things like JavaScript in email. And you're probably smiling going, no, that's a really bad idea. Guess what? It was a really bad idea, and every ISP in the world said, yeah, no more JavaScript in email because it's highly exploitable. But interactivity is coming back thanks to CSS3 and HTML5. This is an example of a micro app inside of an inbox. Literally, the customer got to choose from a certain set of clothing, add it to a cart, and when they clicked purchase, it just went out to the mobile website, completed the transaction. This is possible today. It's really cool. It's by a company called Rebel. They're doing awesome things. So what this shows is that email can actually decrease the barriers to conversion, which is awesome because I don't know about you guys, but I have the attention span of a flea. I'm distracted very easily. So making it easier for me to complete a transaction in the inbox without having to dive into an app or go to a mobile website's cool. Interactivity has multiple components. Over the holidays, I received this email from Nest, and by the way, this unique experience only worked on mobile. Cool, I got an email about new thermostats. As I started scrolling down, this little shopping cart appeared at the bottom. I clicked add, and all of a sudden, that updated. And then I clicked add again, and it updated again. And one more time, I decided to check out. It took me to the website with a full shopping cart. That's a really powerful form of personalization, and it makes me want to convert because I don't have to go through extra steps at this point. This is the power that we have through CSS3, HTML5, and there are other advantages. Google has announced AMP for email. It's going to be a proprietary technology, allowing for these unique, creative, personalized experiences. You'll be able to change content, creating carousels and other features. So email is becoming more and more engaging because companies understand there's a lot of money to be made in the channel, and more importantly, there's a lot of good things to be said and experienced through email. Look, this isn't easy stuff. If nothing else works, try an animated GIF. They work in lots of places. And I'll tell you why. We're all watching a lot of video on email, or video on our mobile phones. It's a huge driver. We are a visual society. Unfortunately for us, though, video is still a ways off. Video in email essentially means having a screen capture linked to a video somewhere else. It's hosted. There are some cool companies doing cool things, but although 69% of the internet traffic is eaten up by video, it's not perhaps the best way to create an experience. I will say this, I have seen great success for companies that have a video, an audience that is really keen on video and they want to consume it. It's essentially a loyalty play. And also, if you have an audience that's primarily on Gmail, you have a great integration between Gmail and YouTube, so you could have native in-app video. All right, all is not well in email, unfortunately. Some of the drivers around the future of email have to do with the fact that email is highly exploited. We have seen all kinds of new attack vectors happening. When you think about data breaches, a lot of them start with email. So one of the important things for us to wrap our minds around is that email has to be authenticated. Remember when I said it was never designed to do what it's doing today? Well, we built technology in order to make sure that we know who is sending the email. SPF, DKIM, DMARC, these are email authentication technologies that allow for ISPs to better understand who is sending them email. We're going to see a growth in the adoption of these. And by the way, the ISPs are rewarding companies that fully authenticate their email. There is a new standard being developed called BIMI, Brand Identifiers for Message Identification. And this will allow the display of your logo in an email client in a list view that will better brand your company. So take advantage of email authentication technology. If you don't know what it is, talk to your marketers, talk to your IT department, and figure out how to use it. This one's kind of near and dear to my heart, and I think it probably makes a lot of sense here, but let's face it, the internet, underlying technologies are fundamentally in English. RFC 6532 is a change to the SMTP UTF-8 protocol. We are now going to accept email addresses in scripts other than English. I think it's really cool. When we think about language and how it identifies us and culturally is relevant to us, all of our email addresses heretofore have been in English. But now we can have email addresses in Sanskrit, in Russian, in Chinese. Gmail is accepting this. Other ISPs haven't caught on yet. But as a long-term trend, knowing that our email addresses are going to become a little more complex, but better reflect our society and the world that we live in is really exciting to me. The last trend that I think we all need to take stock of is the fact that Email is very personal, it's highly exploitable, but it also is highly regulated in certain parts of the world. On May 25th of this year, the GDPR, the General Data Privacy Regulation, comes into force in Europe. It's a really stringent privacy regime that controls what you can do with people's data, how you collect it, and then how you process it. Now, I say this to you now because you may be just starting in the Indian market, but it won't be long before your companies really take flight and you will have a global clientele. And you have to treat the collection of email addresses and the use of that data under the law. And if you don't, the fines are really stiff, I hate to say it. 4% of global turnover or 20 million euro. That is currently the fine for GDPR. So the world is thinking, okay, might be the end of marketing, probably not, but nonetheless, it's something to keep in mind. I know it may not matter now, but down the road, I assure you, when you are all successful, it will matter quite a bit, and it will matter to the companies that you work for. With that, I thank you for your time. Interested in email, see SendGrid, and be happy to talk to you afterward. Thank you.